I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I'd like to welcome you to our 5th Movement for Life class of 2022. This 8-week class is part of AARP Missouri's Moving It Fitness series and is led by Tyler Ferguson. Movement for Life is geared toward increasing mobility to help build your ability to participate in other fitness activities, as well as accomplish everyday tasks. Now, speaking of other fitness activities, you can find many of our previous fitness classes on Missouri's YouTube channel at youtube.com/c/AARPMO. Now, Movement for Life class is a class that is suitable for many levels of fitness. However, you know your own limitations. Please do not go beyond what you know is right for you. If you have any concerns, check with your doctor before participating in this or any other AARP fitness offering. AARP Missouri offers other live fitness classes, and starting February 17th, fingers crossed, we'll have a new Zumba Light class. You'll have links to past programs like Forever Fit and Yoga with Tyler that you can participate in from the recordings. You can find links to current, past, and upcoming programs at aarp.org/movingit. All of our programming is created with people age 50 plus in mind, but it's good for anyone, any age, anywhere. AARP hopes that our fitness classes, like Movement for Life, will be a great option for anyone who may not be able to, or who may be hesitant to attend a traditional fitness class, like caregivers, or for those with health reasons, or for just for the convenience of working at home, or if there's snow. In addition to our online fitness classes, AARP also has resources for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information, and technology information on our website at aarp.org/nearyou. Now, let's get started with Movement for Life. Our instructor is Tyler Ferguson. Tyler, let's move.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you are new with me to class, or if you didn't hear this announcement before, I love to train barefoot. So if you're comfortable and warm enough to take your shoes and socks off and you don't have a neuropathy or a reason to not be in your bare feet, go ahead and come to your bare feet. We have training barefoot allows you to gather a lot of sensory information from the feet, and that tactile feedback gives our brains the ability to figure out where we are in space and our nervous system to take on more information so we move better. So that's why we train barefoot. So coming to standing, notice if you can also get your toes to track forward. Sometimes we have a tendency to turn with our toes out. So maybe you might look down and see that the outside edge of your foot, that line on the outside edge, is parallel with the walls on either side of you. Don't take your stance too wide, but as wide as you need to feel balanced.
Tyler.
Raise your hands. Yeah.
Move the chair out of the camera there.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, buddy. Place your hands on your hips. And then just allow yourself to take some gentle circular motions on your feet. And notice how your weight lands in different areas of the feet. And we're going to map those areas out. As you move forward, the weight is in the balls of your feet. You might even feel your toes press in or press back. As you move to the sides, you might feel inside or outside edges of the feet. And as you move back, change your circle in the other directions. So we always want to be balanced. And even if I forget, go ahead and balance yourself out. As you move backwards, you can feel the weight move into the back of your feet. And then bring your shoulders squarely over kind of the arches of your feet and work on standing tall. So there are a lot of elements in standing tall. I like to think about the spine lengthening and the crown of the head reaching towards the ceiling. Supporting this, you might draw the navel in towards the spine, and you might think if you had a tail, you might shift your tail down toward the ground just a little bit. And then notice when you're standing tall, if you have a tendency to lock out your knees to stand tall, just allow them to soften the slightest amount. Now drive your heels down into the ground to help you facilitate this upward energy. Maybe you can stand taller here. And then slightly draw your feet toward one another energetically. So they're not moving, but you're just pulling the feet in, feeling the inner leg muscles fire up, release and let go. Press the feet apart. Again, they don't move. It's an energetic cue. And as you're pressing your feet apart, I want you to feel the activation all the way up the leg. So as if you're pressing the whole leg up into the femur bone apart. Release and let that go. And then maybe you can find a screwing motion in your feet. Now I'm doing my arms to represent my feet, but I'm pulling my heels toward one another and letting the piggy toes flare energetically. And that'll get the pull and the push in my legs together. Let's stand tall one more time and let the arms totally relax in front of you. If you feel safe, close your eyes and begin to breathe. You might choose to hold onto a chair for balance, or just keep your eyes open if closing the eyes doesn't feel safe in your balance. For some of you, if you're moving around a little bit, you might be getting a little bit of firing in your ankle. We're just taking some inhales and exhales here. And then notice if you can breathe in through the nose and feel the air pass.
Tyler, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
And
Okay, I apologize. I'm having a little pairing problem. How are you hearing me now? Not
Good.
at all.
Good. Sorry, I muted myself there.
Okay. All right. We're going to begin with our neck movement exercises. And I'm going to cue this from the perspective of your vestibular system, or that inner ear that helps you with your balance. So if this is too intense for you, let go of these vestibular cues. Or if this is too intense for you, have a seat. All right. So we're just going to start by taking the hands down, lift your eye gaze up, look up at the ceiling, and then take your eyes and trace them down and look down at the floor. So we're just moving our neck into flexion extension, opening up the chin, looking up at the ceiling, and then closing the chin down to the chest and looking down at the floor. So not only are we getting this movement in our neck, but if you add the eyes, look up at the ceiling, maybe even look up in the top of your eyes backwards. Ooh, that could make you a little dizzy. So just practice in a zone that feels safe to you, and then take your eyes down to the floor. Training our vestibular system can help us with balance. The vestibular system, those little bones in the ears, are responsible for about 60% of our balance. So when we feel dizzy, the way to train away that dizziness is to flirt with that dizziness. Of course, all to your doctor's agreement. And you could take us a little bit faster, looking up and down. Now remember, you can sit down in a chair and do this. You can connect to your breath here, or you can leave the IQ out. That's funny, IQ, isn't it? Okay, bring your eye gaze to center. We're going to take the same thing side to side. So we'll start nice and slow. So just find your end range of motion, taking your eye gaze over left shoulder and taking your eye gaze over the opposite shoulder. Move 2 or 3 times nice and slowly, just to find out a safe end range. And then if you want, take your eyes over now, pause, look back behind you, like there's somebody standing behind you and you're trying to see who they are. Go over to the other shoulder, look back behind you, see who they are, and continue a couple times this way, involving the eyes in this movement. If you start to feel a little dizzy, you can slow down the intensity of the movement. Or if you're sitting down, you can flirt with that dizziness. And then a few more times, I'm just going to move a little bit more quickly. So again, challenging that system and noticing if it brings up any dizzies for me. The last time, come back into center. Drive your knuckles down to the ground. One more last exercise for the cervical spine. Now my right ear is down to my shoulder, left ear energetically pulls up to the sky. Inhale, chin down and switch, and move over to your other side. Left ear down, right earlobe pulls up and away. That creates nice length on the opposite side. That opposite shoulder should also pull down. That's where we drive the knuckles down. Breathe here, inhale, chin down, bend knees and switch, moving more quickly. Right ear down, left ear pulls up, inhale, chin down and switch. Left ear down, right ear pulls up, inhale, chin down and switch. Do it on your own here, right ear down. moving, switching whenever you're ready to switch, and come back into center. Let's continue with warming up the spine. Let me shrug the shoulders a little bit here and get the arms ready. Now, bring your arms right here to your chest. We can just start by moving in this lateral flexion of the spine. And as you move nice and deliberately, so think about where you're going. As you start, the side that you're going to lengthen, you want to pull that shoulder up so that you create space and length as you bend over to the opposite side. And then try it on the other side. Pull the opposite shoulder up, create space between the rib and the pelvis, and come over to the other side. Now, if your shoulders are healthy, you can reach your arms up overhead, grab opposite elbows, and do the same thing. Pull one side up. You might feel more intensity as you pull up in that length. Feel your skin stretch, and just feel yourself take up or create more space in your body for your rib cage, for your lungs, for all of your organs to move. And we're going to add one more little element to this. As you go down to one side, I'm going to my left, I'm pushing down through my right heel. I'm going to come back up over to the other side, keep going, push down into your opposite heel. And come back to center.
Audio's off. Okay, we seem to have lost Tyler there, folks. This is a first for us. I don't see her.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
I don't either.
Okay, all right, we got this. We're standing and we're working on our blade hands. Fingertips, I think we are. Did I introduce that? Does everybody have that? Yep, I can see. Thank you, my friends on the screen doing that. Just about 10 of those. So you'll feel the chest broaden as you bring the blades of the fingers back or the pinky fingers back. And then you don't want to arch in your back as you do it. Just bring the arms back. Pause here. Roll your palms up to the ceiling and notice if you can feel that in your shoulder as well. So rolling palms up into your shoulder and roll palms down. Palms roll up and down. But as you do this, be deliberate so that you can feel the movement in your shoulders and play around with reaching, particularly when you reach up. Can you reach fingertips to opposite walls? When the palms go down, reach fingertips to opposite walls. Go back to those activations I gave you in the legs, driving feet down into the ground. Sorry, I'm bending my elbows and I don't mean to. Connect your breath with your movement. Inhale, open the chest. Exhale, turn the arms down. Good, we're going to do one more exercise. If your shoulders feel healthy, you're going to pretend like you're climbing a rope, reaching up and pulling down. If you don't want to reach your shoulders above your head, just reach in front of you like you're pulling along the ground. Go ahead and play around with your imaginary grip, like you're holding onto the rope and you're pulling the rope down in order to pull you up. So you're in charge of the intensity of this work. Continue being active in the legs. So as the mind shifts to the cues in the upper body, you can still connect to the feet in the lower body. Just a few more reaches and pulls down. Keep breathing, my friends. As you concentrate, you might hold your breath and let all of that work go. I have to make a little change here. My screen is the tiny screen. So I am just going to make myself so I can see myself. Oh, that's better help. Okay, shrug the shoulders up, down, and back. Up, down, and back. Let's move into the T-spine or the thoracic spine a little bit. Shoot your fingertips forward and round your upper back. And then separate the hands. Open up the chest and heart. Not only are we broadening in the chest here, but we're playing around with this biceps muscle at the elbow joint. So we want to lengthen the muscles in the arms, spread the fingers. Shooting round again. So again, we're still straightening out through the arms. Notice if the shoulders travel up. Try to keep the shoulders down as you're shooting round. And then open up your chest. See how your heart floats forward. Inhale, exhale, shooting around. And inhale, open up your chest and release and let it go. We're going to move into spinal circles here. You can keep your hands here at first, or if you have healthy shoulders, you can come up here. So we're going to move over to the side like we did in the past. Now, as you hinge forward, bend the knees a little bit, feel your sits muscles, your glutes pull behind your heels, travel over to the other side, open up your chest so you're in this side bend that we already practiced, and then come up. So that's your spinal circle. Lateral flexion over to the side. Hinge forward, bend the knees a little bit, pull the seat behind the heels, come over to the other side, side bend, and up. Now you can stay very deliberate and slow and staccato with that movement, or you can begin to smooth and circle it out. Just being mindful to allow a bend in the knees as we work with the spine. That'll take a little bit of slack out of the spine. And then pulling your hips back beyond, behind your heels to facilitate that bend. Let's take it the other direction. So moving over opposite side, nice and slow. Feel each of those cues work for you. Particularly as you bend forward, go ahead, be mindful. Are the knees a little bit bent? And as my seat pull back behind my heels, that gives you space to tilt your, keep moving. That gives you space to tilt your pelvis forward, which is important in a forward fold for my yogis. I'm just connecting to my device again. It's being really mean to me this morning. Okay, and come back up. Bring your arms down. That completes our spinal circles for today. Let's move the elbows, thumbs to ears, open up, and then turn your arms down. I'm gonna get close so you can see that. So my wrist and forearms are open. I bring, let's see, they're open. Which direction was I going? Oh, then I turn them down, thumbs in, knuckles in, then I open them up, down, open, down. So we're still getting, can you feel that external and internal rotation in the shoulders? But what we are really going for is getting some hydration to the elbows here. Now let's take the movement the other direction. Bring the fists towards the face and push through, down, open up, then rotate. Push through, forearms are down, then rotate them up. And then take those circles in the other direction. So these joint movements hydrate the joints. They bring synovial fluid into the joint to keep it healthy and functioning well. Fine, let's let go and just do a little wrist movement. We've done a lot of cueing on the wrists. So I don't want to think about my knuckles here. I want to think about my wrists. So I have my head, my ponytail holders on my wrist. I'm going to pull the wrist down and then push the wrists up. So even though it looks like I'm moving my knuckles up and down, put your mind where your wrist is and think about that movement coming from the wrist. Good. And then bring the wrist down, rotate the wrist in. So you notice my elbows went. You're trying to keep it just to the wrist. Then take the wrist up and then take the wrist out. Down, in, that's hard for me, up and out. So you're performing these little circles with limited movement in the shoulders and elbows and trying to really find that articulation of the wrist. And then pause, wrists up, take it out, down, and in. Up and out, down and in. And again, putting your mind where your wrist is rather than sort of mindlessly just moving the knuckles. Actually do that. Let go of the wrist and just move the knuckles and notice how the sensation changes if you're just focusing on the knuckles. All right, let it go. Let's take our fingers and flick. And just get some movement from the fingertips or some energy from the fingertips all the way up. All right, great work, guys. Let's go back into our spine. And I want you to come into a chair pose. So pretend like you have a stool behind you. You're going to pull your hips back behind your heels And then you're going to come to a sitting motion, and you can place your hands right on your hips here, on your thighs here in your chair pose. And I want you to think about your lumbar spine. So you're going to send your tail up and then send the tail down. Send the tail up and down. So notice I'm not doing a full cat and cow here. I'm just isolating my pelvis and I'm moving the pelvis. So noticing if you can connect to that area and have some slight movement in that area. Now place the hands on the thighs, involve your chest, go into full cat, and now full cat. Full cat and full cow. In full cat, my chest comes forward, chin lifts, tail lifts. Full cow, the back rounds to the ceiling, chin comes to the floor, tail tucks down to the heels. A couple more times playing around with your cat and cow. And then come up to standing and shake it all out, release, let that all go. Okay, we're going to move into our hips a little bit. Last week we broke down the back bend a little bit. Actually, before we get to back bend, take your stance pretty wide, wherever it feels comfortable for you, and turn your toes in. If you'd like to bring your chair into this, please do for balance. What we'll do from here is, again, using that cue of pulling the hips back, or the sits bones back behind the heels, you're going to hinge so the back stays flat. So notice I'm not rounding in my spine to go down to the floor. I'm bringing my chest to the floor, keeping my back long, eye gaze is down in front of the floor. So in this first one, you might just keep your hands on your hips and feel what sensation comes up for you. Probably some pull or lengthening on the hamstrings. Try not to get your shoulders lower than your hips. Now drive through the heels. Press the heels down into the ground and come back up to standing. We're going to do that 2 more times. This time you can take your hands off your hips. Oh, goodness. You can take your hands off your hips and put them into the sphere of tension. Toes are in. Pull the hips back behind the heels, keeping the hands right at your chest at the sphere of tension. Always feeling free to put your hands on a chair or couch, table, or block or something for guidance. From here, take your chin and pull it into the chest a little bit more and feel how you get more length from the back of the spine. Then take the crown of the head and energetically reach it toward the direction you're facing. And feel the relationship between the sits bones reaching back behind the heels to the wall behind you and the crown of the head reaching forward. Enjoy that length in the spine. Now put your mind in your heels. Press the heels as you bring the hips back over the heels and come up to standing. Third and final time, take whatever hand position feels good for you. We'll start by creasing at the hips and pulling the hips back behind the heels, hip hinging. Chin is now closer to the chest, so the back of the neck feels long. Hands can stay here, or you can begin to reach the hands forward. Do it slowly and mindfully. And notice as the hands move forward, the load becomes more to take on. So start to maybe squeeze the inner thighs toward one another, draw navel to spine, draw shoulders down away from ear, using your core musculature to help you maintain this. If you've taken this fully extended arm position, which is quite challenging, bring the hands back into the center of the chest for sphere of tension, and then drive to the heel, through the heels, and bring yourself up to forward. Toe heel your feet together to come out of that split stance. Awesome work, guys. Let's keep working on our hips a little bit. Last week, we talked about how to get this really delicious back bend without putting compression in the low back. So we'll start by turning on the glutes a little bit and sending the fronts of our hips forward. But as the fronts of the hips go forward, we have a tendency to want to bring our shoulders back. Instead, lift the rib cage and the shoulders up to the ceiling rather than back behind you. So keep lifting and lengthening as you press your hips forward. And the further you get your hips forward, the more you squeeze your glutes and draw navel to spine to support the low back. Keep lifting heart. You can take the eye gaze and look up just a little bit if you feel steady and safe. Continue to breathe. And then pull the structure back over shoulders, over hips. All right, awesome work. So I got a little flustered with my earbuds not being friendly with me, and so I didn't get our toe work in. So let's get our toe work in now. So come to standing on the floor. Oh, there's my phone. Notice if you can get your weight evenly distributed into all of the areas of the feet like we did earlier when we were moving around. And then lift the toes up. Come to stillness first, my apologies. And then lift the toes up. And then notice if you can not move when you lift the toes up and then place them down. So the first thing we're doing is just working on lifting the toes and spreading them. And this time when you put them down, push them down. And then lift them up. And then push them down. And this ability to push down in your toes is how we walk, how we push off to walk and push the toes down. Now this time, keep the toes lifted, but try to separate the big toe. Push it down with intention, bring it up. Push the big toe down with intention and bring it up. Final time, big toe presses with intention, bring it up. Same with the piggy toe. Press it down and separate it from the fourth toe and lift. Separate piggy from fourth toe and lift. We all have different toes. This is going to look different on everyone. Pick it up and lift. Now, can you go between the two toes? Big toes, reach, piggy toes. And you'll begin to feel the muscles on the top of your feet start to be fatigued, as well as you might feel that space that you create on the top of your feet, or the space that you create in your foot. And then release, press the toes down, and again, press all the toes into the ground, and then draw the pads of the toes back towards your heels. Now notice how that affects your inner thighs. So start to feel the inner thighs light up, and then lift and lengthen through the spine here. Now lift the toes up and reach them forward, which is a really tough cue for me, but pull the toes forward, place them down, and then drive them back, or press them down and then pull the pads back to your arches. Stand up nice and tall and release and let it go. We'll move into the foot fold here. So I'm going to demonstrate. Toes are in the same plane here. And you're just going to pick one ankle or one leg and roll up into the landing pad, that pad of your foot. So where the piggy toe and where the big toe inserts, you should keep that pad on the ground. So you don't want to be up here. You want to keep that pad on the ground. Just do that a few more times. And then on your last time, you're going to hold it and press the toe pad down just a little bit more. Press the toes in and release and let it go. And we'll take it to the other side. Roll it up and down. Roll it up. And then do this also with intention. So make a decision on how much you want to press down as you lift the heel up. Notice if your heel has a tendency to flare out, you want to track forward so the knee is going right over that second toe. And then keep it lifted here. Press the toes in and release and let it go. All right, so that's our toe work for today. Let's go ahead and roll into the big toes and roll to the outside edges of the feet here. So I could have done this on the toe cam, but I got tired of looking at my toes in the toe cam, and I think you can see what we're doing here. We're just rolling the inside, outside edges of the feet, and hopefully you're getting some benefit in the ankles from this work, some movement in the ankles. Just a couple more times here. And release. Now let's take our back bend lesson and put that into a little bit more hip work, particularly our hip group. So I'm going to take my hips and bring them behind me and off to the side, bend the knees. And then think about that cue when we hinged and we had a long spine. Chin is down. So you might want to be looking at the TV now. but see if you can create as much length as possible in the back of the neck. Bring your eye gaze down to the floor, and then come back up to standing. Add a little back bend if you want here, but remember, lift and lengthen through the rib cage, and then send the hips back in the other direction. So if you're looking up, draw the chin to the chest a little bit more, find length in the back of the neck, crown of the head reaches forward or to the opposite corner. Breathe. And then pull your hips forward, option for that lengthening back bend. And let's move a little bit more quickly. Let's go to the original side, drop your chin, get length in the spine, and then begin to swish a little bit, like if you have a paintbrush on your seat and you're painting the back wall, get in there and swish around. And then come forward, lengthen, squeeze the glutes. Other side, swishing with your paintbrush, but being also mindful of a long neck, long back of the neck. Send the hips forward, so you're driving them forward. So think about that you're working in a triangle here. So when the hips go forward, that's the point of the triangle. There's your back bend. Now send the hips to the left side, swish the whole back wall over to the right side. Come to the top of your triangle, lift and lengthen back bend. 3 big juicy hip circles. And then it's up to you how much you bend your knees, how much you swish. And after you get 3 hip circles in, just take them in the other direction. So I did this very hamstringy workout yesterday, and my hamstrings are very activated, or they're tired and sore and tight right now. So this feels delicious. I think I could do this for about 30 minutes and then come to standing long spine at the top. All right, good work. We're going to move into our core work right now. And if you have a chair, you might use the chair for this one, or the wall. Placing your hands in the back of the chair, something that you can hold on to. The wall is going to be a little bit tougher. Let me show you the exercise and you can work it out. Take one leg, and if you don't have a chair, you can work on your balance on this one, but it will be a bit challenging. Take one leg, bring it back behind you, and then notice the standing leg. So it's my left leg. See what my knee looks like when I lock it out versus when I have a micro bend. So it's not a bend, it's just a micro bend. I'm just not locked out. So I can feel my weight in my standing leg. I'm going to take my leg behind me and I'll pull it up into my chest. And then once my knee gets to whatever level it gets to, see if you can use your core, draw your navel into your spine to help you get it a little bit higher, and then take it back. Pull your knee up into your spine or into your chest and take it back. Now this could be a balance exercise. You don't have to use a chair, but it's a balance. I mean, it's a core exercise, not a balance. So if you're moving all around like this, go ahead and hold on to something so you can do the core exercise. Looking for about 6 of these, maybe 2 more here. Your opposite leg might be a little bit fatigued. And then on your final one, pause. Here's where you can play around with letting go of your balance or letting go of your support. And if you notice your ankle is kind of firing and moving around, that's great. We're stimulating and working all those stabilizers. Those are tiny little muscles that we're working. And then bring your leg back down. So just march it out a little bit. And when you march, have some sass in your march. You don't have to be a soldier marching. You can have a little bit of sass, get your shoulders and your hips moving. And then we'll go on to the other side. So establish your new plant foot. And then take your new leg back. Remember not to lock out the knee, find that slight micro bend. And you want your shoulders to be over your hips here. So if you're in this position, notice if you can bring shoulders over hips and draw navel into spine, and bring your knee up. Just see how that feels in your body, where your range of motion is. Maybe with your knee up here, you can squeeze on your standing leg glute. Maybe pack the shoulders to engage lats. So you're using your core more. And then as you find your core, you can use the assistance of your core in these movements. Looking for about 6 of these. So don't hold me to it. I'm going to say 2 more. It might make it 7. Not exactly sure. About 6. And then stand and hold. And then working on your balance here. So your eyes play a big part in your balance too. So picking something that's not moving. So maybe looking just below your screen at a point on the wall, something you can have a laser focus on. And then again, if you can feel your foot moving and moving all about in different areas of your foot firing, that's fine. You're getting all kinds of activation to those muscles in the ankle and lower leg. And then release and let it go. So again, just get some loose movement. I see a few people on my screen and they got their boogie going on. Good for you for having your boogie going on. And then let's go ahead and just find some rotation in the trunk and let the arms swing and be long and slap your body. Excellent. Yeah. And then imagine that your hands have little weights on them. So let this swing gently tug at the tissues of your shoulders, like the hands are heavy and they're pulling and lengthening through the tissues of your shoulders. Awesome sauce. Good job. Good work. All right, one more core exercise. Again, we're going to use our chair on this one, or a table, a couch, coffee table. And this is the one where we bring our leg up. So plant foot comes down, one leg comes up. So we're just in this split stance here. And then bringing your hands into sphere of tension. I'm trying to think what angle I want you sitting. I want you sitting at this angle. I'm just going to rotate towards the leg that's down on the ground and rotate back to front. But as you rotate, can you bring your mind into the tissues associated with kind of your rib cage and your navel, your abdominal area? And can you use those tissues rather than kind of using your shoulder to muscle through it? Can you figure out how to return and move out using those tissues? And then after a few, take your hands and bring them forward and rotate in the opposite direction. So now you're rotating toward the knee that is lifted. And again, just bringing your awareness to the oblique muscles, those rotating muscles that are helping you get deeper into your rotation and back to center. And we'll complete that. Come on down on your chair, step your other foot up. And if you're not sure about your balance, when you're stepping up into your chair, you also want to have a wall to hold on to as you lift your foot up. So let's first rotate toward the standing leg. And when we do our single leg balance, there's a lot of cueing that can go on in the standing leg. So even though this is a core exercise, working on our trunk rotators, you can still think about having a good standing leg. So you can spread your toes wide, feel the weight of the heel drive down, turn on the glute, hug the globe of the glute to your body on that standing leg, and even hug the quad muscle in, and don't lock out the knee. So many exercises. I'm so bossy. Okay, and then bring your hands together. Let's take this movement the opposite direction. And you might notice as you move this opposite direction, if you tend to lose your balance, take some of those cues in that standing leg and apply them. And then bring your awareness back into your trunk. I'm just pointing the trunk as you find your rotations. And we'll finish up there. So safely, carefully come off your chair. And we're going to move down to the floor to work and unpack shin box. So there were quite a few really excellent questions about shin box last week. So I want to unpack them a little bit. I just want to show you, if you're performing shin box in a chair, to the best of your ability, you're just going to slide up to the front of your chair where your hips or your sits bones still feel supported, and you can maybe reach back somewhere on the chair to feel super, super supported so you don't fall up. You're not going to be able to completely do the exercises as much as the floor, you'll be surprised how much you get out of it. On the floor, come on down to the floor and come to a comfortable place with your hands behind you so you can sit with your knees bent and your feet on the ground. So we're going to start there. So people mentioned that the tailbone was maybe getting sore in shin box. So if I C curve the front of my body, or if I C curve my back and I kind of collapse in the front of my body, do that with me. Notice how you get more tailbone on the floor. You can feel how maybe you have your sits bones, but also your sacrum on the floor. But if I take my chest and I lift my chest and lengthen my chest, can you feel the pelvis move so that the sacrum comes up off the floor? And then maybe you can feel it's the bottom of your pelvis that is touching the floor, not so much the sacrum or the back, but the bottom of the pelvis. So use that as a guide for shin box today. So anytime you feel the sacrum on the floor, just notice if you're slouching or collapsing in the trunk, lift and lengthen in the trunk. And then also, I think I mentioned to some of you that a pad would work, and it will. So if you brought your pad, go ahead and pad up too. Otherwise, bring your hands behind you, feet are wider than your hips. And if you've made it onto the ground, and this is your first shin box, or if you struggled with pain in shin box, stay right here with me. So we're just waving the knee towards the inside, and be mindful that both sits bones are on the ground here. So I could take this knee and go all the way here, but see how I had to peel myself up? So don't do that. Only go as far as you can keep your sit bone on the ground, because that way you're keeping the pelvis still and just moving the femur head and the pelvis. Let's move it on the other side. Now, again, as we move into more complicated shin box patterns, if those patterns don't work for you, by the way, I hope you're having success if some of you are in a chair doing this. You should be able to roll your knee to the inside, sitting on the front of your chair. Some of you, as we move into more complicated patterns, struggle with the more complicated patterns, don't force yourself. Come back and do this feathering. Just do 2 more sets of feathering as you watch the other patterns go on. So meet yourself exactly where we are. We have different anatomy, different injuries, different tissue history. So just be good to yourself. So that's the feathering. You might revisit that. If this feels okay, go back to your original knee, drop it down, but let the other knee fall down too. Now, when that happens, your sits bones are going to peel up off the floor. Okay? So let's just try that. And then lift and lengthen in the spine. And then the orientation of your trunk is over the shin of your front leg. Now, hinge back to your hands, go back to your sit bones. Notice when the knee comes up, you're back to your sits bones, and drop both knees to the other side. Then you're going to peel up, sit up, and then notice that your trunk is in the orientation to the shin bone of the front leg in the other direction. Let's just practice these shin bone switches here. Hands go back, weight goes back to the sit bones. Notice my heels really aren't sliding or moving. I'm just dropping these down, sitting up nice and tall. Move at your own speed. And if you need to put your heels closer together or further apart, remember, it's not important that you look like me or anyone else on the screen. It is important that you find a movement that feels safe and beneficial to you. Now, everybody doesn't have to do this, and you'll travel, but you could shin box without your hands. I'm not saying you have to do that. I don't like to do it because I travel. I move, I scooch forward, and it doesn't feel good to me. All right, everybody pick your side. That original knee comes down. Now, I'm going to just scooch a little bit so you can see me better. Now, rotate your trunk even a little bit further so it lines up along the thigh of the leg that's forward. Lift and lengthen through your spine. This is called spinal wave. Lift and lengthen through the spine, and then start to lay the belly button down, but keep the chest and the chin peeled away. Peel down the belly button, and then fold and start to peel down like your breastbone. Then allow the head to sweep down, and then peel it all back up. Spinal wave. Come back up to top. Lift and lengthen. Inhale, exhale, belly button. And then the lower part of your ribs, your chest. Head is the last to go. Head sweeps back. There go my earbuds. I knew that was going to happen last time. Sweep up. Lift and lengthen through the spine. Peel down the belly button. This third and final time, we're going to stay. So some of you, this is your full expression of the pose. That's great. See if you can get a comfortable arm alignment for you to feel the stretch. For others, you might be able to get lower. And for others, you might be able to drape completely over. Wherever you are, try to give yourself as much support as you can. So maybe stack your fists so your forehead can rest. And then breathe. And breathe into the squishy places. Breathe into the spaces that feel compressed. You should be able to have a deep breath in this pose. So if your breath is shortened or shallowed, maybe come out of the pose, rethink that. And I'd love to stay here super duper long, but we need to keep moving. So peel yourself back up, and then you're just going to perform your shin box over to the other side. I'm going to scoot just so you can see me. Rotate your trunk so that it's more in line with the femur of the front leg, and you'll feel that stretch in here right away. For some of you, maybe that's enough. Maybe you just rotate and go, wow, that's a lot. I'm just going to play right there. That's enough sensation for me today. Others, you can work on peeling. So what we're trying to do is by taking the belly button down first, we're getting the pelvis to tilt. Remember that little tilt thing we practiced in our chair pose? We're making sure that the pelvis rotates before we bend over. So finding length on the way down is sort of the secret to this spinal wave, allowing you to reach deeper into the tissues. And at your last, on your third one, you can get a little bit deeper into the pose and slow down a little bit. Usually when I arrive in this pose, I have my glutes sort of turned on and protecting a little bit. So can you just release and let go? Let the ankles go, let the toes go. Just surrender a little bit into this shape. Again, exploring the shape with the breath, making sure you can breathe deeply and smoothly, safely. And then noticing if you have any strain in the neck, or allowing the head to become heavy and rest in a supported way if possible. You can always bring in a pillow or a block. And then peel yourself back up. When you're up, you'll find yourself back into that shin box shape. We're going to take it a little bit further today, like we did last week. Shin box into our original position. Let me get where you can see me. And then this time, instead of lining up your trunk with your femur head, go beyond and plant your hands beyond your top of your leg. And that's just going to create a different sensation. It's going to start to create some length in the leg that's behind you. And if you feel comfortable, you can do like this little mini push-up, just play around in this area. Maybe lift. So if you think about a pigeon pose, as the shoulders come down, that's like a resting pigeon. And as the shoulders come up, it can actually feel like a little bit more activation. And you can just rotate and spin a little bit to try to find sensation here. And then lift knees up. I took you out quickly. I'm going to go one more place and find that on the other side. And then notice you're going to feel different on one side than the other. You're going to find sensation. It's going to land differently in one place than the other. And that's all part of the experience. That's all part of being mindful about this movement and just taking notes, little mental notes, and noticing what's unique about you and your body, what you've learned about you and your body, and being really patient with it. So none of these exercises are gymnastics to be performed. They're just opportunities to get in touch with your body and how it moves for you. And allow yourself to not only hydrate it and serve it with movement, but begin to address potential adhesions and other restrictions. Let's come out of that one. We're going to take this one step further. Final movement in shin box today. Go back to your original shin box position. Rotate beyond that leg. Now again, stop where you need to stop. This is intense, okay? Now, if my left knee is forward, my left arm is down, I'm going to take my right arm, and I'm going to thread it back behind my wrist. For some people, this is it. That's it, right there. For others, you can reach and hinge. Maybe step the arm out, reach and hinge. And just play with this. Maybe some of you can get your shoulder head down to the ground. Most of you won't, okay? So I'm showing the people that can find that, I'm showing that for them. For most of you, just the idea of bringing the other hand back behind the other one is enough. But wherever you are, don't force anything. Just play with it. Move slowly and intentionally in. And then let's start to exit. Wherever you are, slowly, with intention, mindfully exit out of that place. Take a moment, shin box, and then we'll find that in the other direction. So do all the little pieces. First, rotate the trunk, plant the hands, and then if your right hand is forward, your right knee is forward, your right hand is planted, left hand comes up, opposite if you're in the opposite direction, that's fine. And then just begin to play with this threading. So sometimes I need a restriction, so I have to move my plant hand to allow me to hinge further. And then notice what comes up for you if you can't do what you see. How do you react to that? Is your reaction to have compassion and patience with yourself? Is your reaction to be angry with yourself? So notice what comes up. And notice your ability to compassionately meet yourself exactly where you are. That's part of the mindful practice. We talk a lot about having compassion and patience with other people. It's important that you have it with yourself as well. Let's begin to exit this pose slowly and mindfully. Coming out of the twist. And accepting with love and gratitude that if the twist wasn't in your toolbox today, then that's exactly where you were today. Let's take a moment. If you're in a chair, try to get super relaxed in the chair. And if you're on the ground and if you're comfortable being laying down completely on the ground, bring yourself down to the ground and allow yourself to take up space. Almost cultivate a kid-like or a childlike quality. Imagine a child laying on the ground. You know what? Imagine snow angels. Let's do that. Let's imagine ourselves being in the snow, reaching our arms overhead. And then take your legs out wide. And then bring your arms down, slide them down to the side, slide the legs in. And just make some snow angels on the floor. Taking up space, taking up a lot of space. We've spent so much time in the last 2 years of not taking up space, but walking. And then reach your biggest expression of taking up space as you can. Spend a second here. And then settle into something that feels more relaxing to you. But at a time when we've been walking narrow paths and quickly making ourselves small and crowded areas, moving from one space to another, we can forget how to move and take up space. And then roll onto your favorite side of your body if you're on the floor. And then from your favorite side of the body, take your top hand and press yourself up to a seat. It is a pleasure and an honor to move with you on Wednesdays. It's such a joy to be here with all of you.